So, I'm beginning to speak about what maintenance therapy is. Now, we each have been born at some point in time. We were born to mother and father, and we live the life we have day by day, moment by moment, by winning against odds, by moving through what needs to be done with to now sort of earn the next moment, to earn the next day of living. And depending on what we did the previous day, the previous moment, and how we live life, we get the momentum and the impetus and the inspiration to move to the next. We also move through our daily activities, through our choices, in fulfilling something that we would want to see happen in our life. Now, this may be something that inspired us, that keeps us ticking. It has us wanting to get up in the morning, do the things we do, even brush our teeth, and do the things we do, and step into the next moment in trying to achieve that. Yeah, in having that be available, in having accomplished that. Depending on how well things went, we have the experience of living. Some of the things that we have accomplished give us a sense of, yay, we did it, and those we store in our different memories, tissue memory, intellectual, spiritual, energetic, emotional, in our different memory banks that makes up our body, that makes up our system, our constitution, into having, okay, these yay moments, it all went well, it was good. So these make up our good experiences. And then we have some not so nice experiences, that things, maybe some things broke, some things were not managed well, and so we failed to have something, or some things didn't go as well as we would have liked it to, and some things really hurt. And these are all in some ways stored in our same memories, same memory banks, but as unpleasant ones, as not so fine things. You may not want to dwell in them long enough. They don't make you feel well. Depending on what we discern as good or bad, and depending on how much resources we have, in being able to deal with those things that needs to be taken care of, just like our house. Now we have things that are working in the spaces. We would have places to sit, places where we cook and eat and do a different activity. And similarly, there are places where things are not working as well. There must be places that you need to dust often, you need to clean sometimes, you need to remove some old things, some things where you just stash things, saying that, okay, one fine day I'm going to deal with that. So just like a house, our constitution, our body constitution, our experience of living also has several pockets where there are some things that are working, and life's moving, you're able to do things with it. And then there are some pockets where things are not working as well, and you're like, okay, I will deal with it one day. There is this emotional thing that I need to deal with. There's a baggage from what has happened before, so this is something that I need to deal with. Or there is something that needs to be looked into a little more carefully, maybe a relationship, it may be a matter that you wanted to consider. So there are to-do lists, yeah, and there is our everyday experience of living. So maintenance is in part what it takes to take care of both experiences. Like, you have the album, and once in a while you do need to look through your album, yeah, to remember what were the good times, and because that is what you preserve in an album, right? Similarly, a memory also has good albums and bad albums too, so we are preserving them. And maintenance partly is in sorting out the house every now and then, yeah. And the house that I'm talking about is our constitution, that's our body. And now our body is made up of several aspects. There is the tissues, there's the fluids, there is spaces, there is stillness, there is emotions, there is logical thinking, there is reasoning, there is so that would partly be what we call as intellect. So there are words, there are sensations, there are what we see, smell, hear, feel, and then there is the spirit, there is consciousness. So, and there are things that we know and there are things that we don't know. And there is also a certain knowing by which we gauge if something is true or not. When we encounter something, when we hear something, there is something that clicks in place and say, okay, this is true. This I don't know about. But what there is, it's, I call it as a alethiometer, a truthometer, by which you sort of kind of gauge if something is true or not. We all have it in various degrees. Some of us have worked on it, some of us have not. But this, so these are all the different instruments, different tools, instruments that makes up our constitution by which we move through life. And just like any instrument needs periodic maintenance, even a knife needs periodic sharpening, yeah, or even a scale, a ruler needs periodic maintenance, yeah. Now, everything that, and the more better things are maintained, well they perform. Yeah. So far, I haven't said anything new. Maybe it's in a different perspective that I've said it, but maybe I haven't really said something new. Now, what I'm going to say may have been largely delegated into esoteric groups. And this is what I'm talking about as our idea of a life. Just like we have previous day, previous moment, this moment, I call it as a life day, wherein we have this life day and there were previous life days, wherein I'm referring to the theory of incarnation. It's said to be a theory, but you may have even heard from many sources about the soul being continuous. And the life that we live now, just like there may have been things that worked yesterday or last month or last year, and similarly there may have been things that didn't work yesterday, last month or last year, there may have been things that worked in the previous lives. Similarly, there may have been things that did not work in the previous life or previous lives. And this is just like one big house, our own personal house. I call it the soul house. Yeah? And just like the house needs maintenance, the day needs maintenance. For the previous day, what happened? This is kind of maintaining time, as in the experience of life lived in different times. Yesterday was a time, last month was a time. Similarly, last life was also a time. But where is this time encoded? Where is this time noted? Just like we have the experience of yesterday. If we think of yesterday, we can go there in our memory. Yeah. Similarly, when we think of last month, last year, childhood, yeah, you can sort of remember it. You can sort of you can remember how it was to be a child. So how is it possible? It must be there in somewhere in our memories, right? In our tissue memory, in the different memory banks that make us us. The soul is part of what makes us us. Now, this may be even delegated into esoteric conversation, but we are not just the body or the mind, or we keep saying, when we engage in something, to invest our body, mind, and soul into it. So the soul is not outside somewhere there, but it's part of us. And just like how there is tissue, and tissue is kind of a memory bank, mind is also kind of a memory bank where we do also remember things. Soul is also a memory bank. And In the work that I do, I help facilitate life. I help facilitate original intelligence. And what that means is I help to maintain, that's one part of the work, to maintain being the original you. What I mean by that is, just like the house needs periodic sorting out, okay, um, depending on, so that there is sufficient space, there is sufficient aeration, there is sufficient light, there is sufficient air moving through. Yeah, I said that. And then there's sufficient warmth in there, and then sufficient happiness in there. Yeah. So all of that sort of makes sure that the house is functioning. Yeah. At least in the basics. From there are several. Now I spoke about in terms of the Panchabhutas, what they mean as earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, intention. So all of these make up not only just the house, but also what each one of us is. So I help maintain the basic constitution, build up what has a life be a life. What there is an impetus, there is an instinct that has life be born, that has you and I and all of us, or different forms, even a chair be born. Yeah, and there are components to it. So I help facilitate life, health, healthy movement. I also help facilitate maintaining the health of life that a person is. So in the course of the work, past experiences that may have been there, good and bad, sometimes we get stuck in the good experiences. We get saying, okay, it's good and good and good, and then you're stuck kind of in only the good experiences, and you are and sometimes unable to actually look at the bad experiences because they are so uncomfortable, kind of stuck in the good experiences. And if anything bad comes, you don't know how to deal with it. Similarly, you could be stuck in the bad experiences so much that you're unable to see joy and happiness in life. Even if it's there, you cannot see it. Even if there is love, even if there is different kinds of good experiences, there is resources available, there is good things available around you, but you cannot experience it because you're in some way stuck in the bad, in the not so pleasant experiences. So in the work that I do, I help I bring movement where there may have been stuckness in some way, or where movement could not be possible due to whatsoever reasons. Sometimes it's just that the person did not have sufficient time in which to look at these different aspects because they've been so busy with life. I've noticed this with a lot of caretakers. I've noticed this with a lot of managers, with leaders. They're so busy doing what they need to do that they don't have the time to look at all the other aspects that need to be looked at. And hence, they're not able to function at the optimum pace that they would like to live, that they would like to be. And so their emotional states have affects from previous experiences, not only maybe from from yesterday, the day before, but maybe from lives previous. Sometimes there is physical experiences that may not have gone so well, so they're stuck in those things, gone well and not gone so well. Yeah, and sometimes they're stuck in them, and hence they're kind of blindsided by what they could possibly do further, how they could possibly move further. Because there needs to be a certain sufficient space, sufficient strength of spirit, a certain strength, a certain level of happiness that needs to be constantly maintained. So the work that I do, I help facilitate these being there. And I don't do anything. Well, I do something that I call as nothing, which is a form of movement which comes about. Well, let me just try and paraphrase this. There is movement, and then there is stillness. There is sounds, and then there is silence. There is dark, and then there is light. There is hard, and they're strong. There is contraction and then there's relaxation. What I'm speaking is there is expansion, there's contraction. I'm talking about opposites. And when you're in either of these states, there are different things that becomes possible. Now, in the work that I do something called as I call as nothing, which is a state wherein you can be. It's a let's just say it's a kind of a Buddha pose where you are actively passive and you're kind of passively active, and you're being non-judgmental, without listening, without directing anything, but listening in a mindful way, and things become possible. I've noticed this on and on, and that's something that I do. I do nothing, and in doing that, I help facilitate life. I help people maintain the original intelligence, the the life that they have come into existence with and have the potential to become, the more it is maintained in healthy states. So this is a kind of an intro to the work, but it also kind of gives an overview. There is several contents in here, several matter that has been discussed. I invite you to look at what may be possible for you if you're able to clear baggages from past experiences, maybe even from past lives, and in doing so, and this doesn't happen by me wanting to do something, or you saying, okay, I have this experience from the past life, I want to, I think this is from coming from somewhere else. That's not what I mean. I work from what is happening in the present, and in the present there is the influence of what has been, and there's also the influence of what could be, and I help facilitate living in the present, and whatever may be wanting to now be cleared, that does not allow for you to be in the present, is a movement that is there in life. Life happens in the moment, and there are these things that has been wanting to be cleared and could not for whatsoever reason, and these things that needs to be cleared may be experienced from the past, which keeps impinging in the present and obstructs your ability to move healthily in the present. And what I do is I help facilitate the movement of life that may not be being able to be possible in the present, and that may be coming from yesterday, that may be coming from a year before, or something coming from another lifetime. So I invite you to look at what may be possible for you, on how you may be benefited. I invite you to schedule an appointment and discover what this work is about. Discover what becomes possible for you in your life from maintaining health and life in this way. It's a very organic way. There is no medicines involved. There is no interventions or anything. It's a practice that comes about from it's a facilitation that involves very gentle touch, mindfulness, awareness, and the very tools that you and I are made up of. Yeah, and I facilitate life and health with just this. Yeah, so I invite you to meet me sometime and see what may be possible for you to your life. Happy new discoveries, And I hope something opens up for you which may not have been possible before. Because my work has come to be, and this work is available. And now I'm making this available. I have been practicing for 7 years now, and I'm making this available to larger groups of people. It's taken some time for me to voice out what I do, because I could not find the words with which to express this, because this work is largely experiential. And now I do have these words with which I'm conveying, reaching out to life and saying this work is available, and the feedback is encouraging. I invite you to experience this work and see what becomes possible for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your kind understanding and your presence.